Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, February 24th, 2022, it would appear that the Russian Federation obviously has launched a major operation into Ukraine. We would define this as the Red Arrow operation, probably the most aggressive planned operation that the Russians could have launched. Obviously, Putin had a variety of options, but it would appear that he has chosen what we would define as Operation Red Arrow, which is an attempted decapitation of the leadership inside of Kiev with the intent of quite possibly puppeting Ukraine and placing in either a military governor or a political figure that is more pro-Russian. And we can say this is going to be a very long and drawn-out battle. And what I'm going to do right now is try to go over what we are seeing right now in terms of what is happening in the battle space, what things are looking like, and just to give you, the viewer, an idea of what we believe is happening on the ground inside of Ukraine. So yesterday in the late evening, the operation was started with the Russian version of shock and awe, you could say. It would appear that the Russians hit aim points all over Ukraine, including the capital, Kiev, and a host of other cities, really running the gambit all over of Ukraine. And it looked initially like they were targeting as we had talked about in previous episodes, they would go after the air defense sites, the air defense network inside of Ukraine that would then allow the Russian military or the Russian Air Force to operate fairly freely, fairly uncontested over Ukraine. And that operation is continuing. We've also seen strikes on military depots and staging areas of the Ukrainian Army, the Ukrainian National Guard, and other paramilitary organizational forces. Right now, what we're seeing is a movement into Ukraine on the ground, and we're going to start in Kiev and kind of talk about what we're seeing. And we can tell you this is a very bold and a very high risk, high reward operation that the Russians appear to be launching, especially in the vicinity of Kiev. And I'll try to explain. It would appear, well, it doesn't appear, we absolutely know that Russian VDV forces, airborne forces, and Spetsnaz forces have seized control of the Antonov airport, which is located just to the northwest of the city of Ukraine. And there appears to have been a fight, a very heavy fight. It would appear that multiple Russian helicopters, we can confirm at least one Ka-52 attack helicopter was indeed shot down within the vicinity of this operation in terms of the environments of the airport. The major town near this airport is right here, Hostomel. And we continue to hear reports of fighting taking place around Hostomel as well. So in terms of this being a high risk, high reward, the continued Russian occupation of the airport is really going to be contingent on further forces that can be flown into the airport, but most importantly, the movement of Russian forces that will be coming down from the border areas of Belarus. And we can also confirm that it looks like there's at least two accesses of advance coming down, one towards Chernobyl, We're hearing that there has been heavy fighting taking place near Chernobyl, and the Russians are actively trying to force their way down through Chernobyl. And in some media outlets, that would indicate they're trying to seize control of Chernobyl. I doubt that. They're not trying to actively seize control of it. They may continue their supply lines through this area, but ultimately they're trying to work their way down and meet up with these airborne forces that are operating near the Antonov Air Base. And again, uh, very high risk, high reward. And the reason that is, it is very likely the Ukrainians could mount some sort of counterattack or start to attack the environments of the airbase with heavy artillery, and putting at risk those airborne forces that have landed in that area. We could also see a tank attack by the Ukrainian military as well. The Ukrainian military has heavy brigades. They have multiple combat units within the vicinity of Kiev. So the holding on to this airbase is going to be a crucial component to this continuing operation by the Russians, because it would really appear that their number one goal right now is to get into Kiev and take down the current government and say they control Kiev. If they say they control Kiev, the paradigm changes quite a bit, especially in terms of the morale of the Ukrainian populace, because then basically you're looking at a government in exile or a government that would transfer their base of power to Lviv in the west, which in all probability is going to happen either way. And there is Lviv there. Again, a very, very large city, and direct access to Western support coming in through Poland in terms of military equipment. Additionally, we're seeing an additional movement of Russian forces to the northwest of Chernobyl. So it looks like initially it's a two-pronged operation coming down to the west of the Dnieper River, again with the goal of meeting up with these VDV Spetsnaz formations that are operating near that airport. This is going to be a very, very pivotal battle and could end up being a setback for the Russians. Again, a very bold, audacious plan to launch an airborne operation this close to the capital of the opposing force, in which the Ukrainians have quite a bit of assets in this area. Obviously, a lot of these assets are going to be suppressed by the Air Force of the Russian Federation. But again, a very bold plan that could end up either being very successful or could end up being very unsuccessful for the Russians. What else is going on? We continue to see a fairly large operation near Harkov or Harkiev. This town right here, this is the second largest city inside of Ukraine, and we're hearing reports of some fairly heavy fighting taking place to the north of the city. We have also seen some very heavy rocket attacks taking place on the outskirts of Harkov or Kharkiv as well. We can also say we've heard reports of initial engagements by Ukrainian forces in which the Javelin, the U.S. Javelin anti-tank guided weapon system, was used on targets to the north of Harkov or Kharkiv. And that fighting continues. It would appear that, at least on the surface, the conventional forces of the Russian Federation are probably meeting a little bit more resistance than they anticipated, and they may not be moving quite as fast as anticipated. Now, with that being said, it would appear the Russian airborne units, those are very elite, aggressive units, and the Spetsnaz units may be finding a bit more success in certain areas. To the south, this gets a bit more interesting. We've heard reports of Russian forces moving into southern Ukraine from the Crimea. We've heard of battles taking place in these areas. So again, these are more or less border cities with the Crimea, and again, very, very difficult route to advance by the Russians if indeed they're coming through this area, which early indications would say that is occurring. But it appears that there's heavy fighting taking place in this border area, and also over here further to the west as well. And these operations will probably continue for some time until the Russians can achieve a breakthrough. And much like the operation to the north, where we saw those airborne units come in, we're also seeing Russian airborne units now operating in this city right on the Dnieper River. Specifically, we've gotten word, and we can report that there is also video evidence that would indicate a Russian Spetsnaz unit has seized control of this facility and actually raised the Russian flag near a power plant near this town. So again, watching this very closely, but without a doubt, probably the most aggressive operation the Russians could have possibly launched. I talked about my theory that it could be much less, and quite honestly, it could be what we're seeing now. We just didn't know what was going to happen. But as predicted, we are seeing the main routes of advance by the Russians coming through Crimea. We're seeing a major advance route near Harkov. And then obviously the most daring operation right now is taking place to the north of Kiev. And we're going to have to watch this very closely because, again, if we do see these Russian forces actually make a breakthrough, and we've heard reports of some very, very heavy fighting taking place. And in one report we received, up to 15 Russian armored vehicles were reportedly destroyed by a anti-tank guided weapons unit of the Ukrainian military that was operating closer to the Belarusian border. So again, some of these conventional forces appear to be having a rather tough time busting through these Ukrainian formations and defenses, whereas the more elite VDV formations looks like they're achieving their initial objectives, especially now that we can confirm that the Russian airborne are in control of this airbase right here on my map. So we'll continue to follow this very, very closely. As always, we'll continue to watch what's happening very, very closely, and as events change, we will update our Google Earth map where Russian activity, where fighting, where Russian movements are taking place with this rudimentary symbology that I've applied to the map. But hope you enjoyed the content, and more to come very, very soon. Have a good day, everybody.